Eeyore shit here. This is the real. I'm so lonely. I push everyone away.
When I reread the audiobook, I was like halfway through it, and I turned to Kelly one day, and I'm like, "What was that last Taylor Swift album called?" She's like, "The Tortured Poet Society," and I go, "Yeah, this book about Marius is just the Tortured Vampire Society. That's what this book ought to be called."
The Articulate Coven is the original, unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire, The Vampire Chronicles, The Lives of the Mayfair Witches, and The Immortal Universe from AMC and AMC+.
Welcome to The Articulate Coven. We are your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are The Articulate Coven. Ashley, long week, very long week.
Joel, it's been a week.
You know, so The Articulate Coven is the unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Immortal Universe, or Vampire Chronicles, The Lives of the Mayfair Witches. We're going to talk about those shows as we already have been. We're going to talk about the Talamasca coming up in 2025.
We're so excited.
Lots of fun stuff as this expands. Our sister show is Flan Again. If you like the works of Mike Flanagan, we got something for you over there. And matter of fact, Ashley, here's a tease for the end of the episode. You and I are going to talk about something that is coming imminently from Flan Again.
Yes. It's right nipping at our heels.
This week, we're in our book club episodes. We're going to begin the coverage of Marius's story from the Vampire Chronicles. It's called Blood and Gold. Very interesting novel. I'm excited to talk to you all about it. But before we get to that, Ashley, for some reason, I've been rereading It by Stephen King. We're going to talk about another book for a minute. It is fantastic, by the way. The audiobook is really well done.
It is. Is it the guy from Wings that does it?
You know, well, no, my phone is what you're looking at me through, so I can't pull. I started to open I've done this before. I'm like, open Audible, except I can't.
I've got it. I'm going to look myself. You keep sharing.
It might be. I honestly can't. When you say the guy from Wings, I think the funny brother who was in The Shining.
Steven Weber.
It is Steven Weber. You're saying, wow.
Baby in her arms. He thought of saying, "Hello, my name is Bill."
Yes. That's the one I'm listening to. I did not connect that voice with Steven Weber.
He's fantastic. He's
really good
audiobook narrator.
It's interesting. The main reason I decided to read it is because I read it as a child. I was probably 12 or 13, and it's been 30 years since then. And I thought, hey, that's coincidental. That's what the book's about.
Man, yeah.
Let me read this cycle. But Ashley, I'm just thinking about what this book is, and it's such a wonder. If you've never read it before, you just know it from the miniseries or something. The book is more than that. But the basic story is there's this existential horror that prefers to dress like a clown, and we feel like we defeated it once upon a time, and yet it's back, Ashley, and we have to defeat it again.
And weirdly, it's a fucking clown.
I don't know why I feel so compelled to read and talk about that book with you all right now, but I do.
It feels really timely, doesn't it?
So listen. Ashley and I are not going to...
Every 27 years it's supposed to be.
Yeah, right? It's not every 4. So listen, Ashley and I are not policy wonks. We are not political movers and shakers. We are active politically, and we are active in different local community organizations and charities and things that we want to be a part of. We're very active citizens. That's the way I think about myself. Yeah. Don't you, Ashley?
100%. I'm a participant in the world around me. I want to be a part of my community. I want to be a part of things. I want to be a part of creating a better world for everyone that's around me. I think that's something I'm big on community building. That's something that we've spent 20 years in Little Rock building community, and I love it. And I love it here.
We're not going to turn this show into Politics R Us, and we're not going to talk about the news every week, because that's not what we do. We wouldn't be good at it if we did it. There are much better shows.
We'll be very sad all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it would destroy this fun thing that we do.
Yeah. We do this for fun. We're not looking to But
I do think that it's important for us to talk about it a little bit. We are both American. We just had a U.S. election here this past week, Tuesday, and Donald Trump, the former president, has become the president-elect. I do want to correct. As a
exhausted.
As a political science student, I was a poli-sci student before I started theater, Ashley, in college, and that's what my degree is in, technically. As a political science student and as a grammar nerd on occasion, I want to correct everybody who is writing articles talking about President Trump. America has one president at a time, and his name is Joseph Biden. Trump is former President Trump, who has now become president-elect. That's the way you ought to write your articles, and I wish they would correct that. But he is going to be president again. That's true. He won a decisive victory. It's not a landslide. America doesn't have landslides anymore.
It's not a mandate.
I mean, I think there's an argument to be made maybe for a mandate. I would say that the way that it's being described is overblown.
Yes.
But there's no fooling. There's no trickery. He may even end up winning the popular vote. I don't think he will when all of California is counted, but it's going to be close, which it shouldn't have been. You know, none of the polls had it being that close, the popular vote. So it's a shocking win for a guy that Ashley and I have already made clear on the show we don't like. We don't approve of.
No, he's the worst.
He's pretty bad. There's no doubt about it. Last time, many of our friends were hurt by his administration. Ashley and I are both very privileged. We're fairly middle-class people. We're both white. We're both, ostensibly Protestant Christian as far as culturally, the way we represent, et cetera, et cetera. We are not in one of these marginalized groups in a way that presents itself. I will say I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. I'm bisexual. I didn't know that when he was elected the first time.
Look,
but
we learned so much from our vampires, haven't we, Joel? I'm telling you.
Anyway, I know that a lot of people in our community are very scared and they're very sad. Not everybody, probably. There's probably still a few of you that are more conservative than not that listen to us, and thank you for continuing to listen.
Yes.
Right. I will say this. However you feel in the immediate aftermath of this election, and even now a week later, or almost a week later, that's fine. It's fine to feel however you feel, and don't let anybody talk you out of it. The worry that you have is real. The concerns you have are valid. I was sort of sackcloth and ash when he won the first time, and a lot of my friends laughed and said, "Oh, you're overblowing it." And it was worse than I thought it was going to be at the end of his first 4 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad as it could have been. And honestly, I believe in this American experiment. And I think that we can and have survived him as a nation. Not all of us individually did. I want to remind you, there's 1 million people dead from COVID in America. So anyway, I want you to feel however you feel, but I just want to encourage you that nothing is over.
No.
Your fight's not over. This country's not over. The world's not over. Your life isn't over. And all of those things can and should and will go on. And I hope that you will, when you're ready, pick up your sign, pick up your shovel, pick up whatever, and let's get back into this game again. Yeah. There's an election in 2 years that'll go a long way.
Was about to mention that.
Wrangling in anything that he and his party tried to do. There's an election in 4 years that could ensure this whole thing turns around. It's just that simple. So
we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of protecting of our community that has to be done, and there's a lot of there'll be a lot of collateral damage, and we just want to mitigate that as much as we can. And I just encourage you. I was feeling really numb, and that bothered me. I was like, I just feel really numb and empty. And then I sort of realized that what that actually was acceptance. And then now I'm just like, I'm fiercely focused. It's what's next? What's next? I'm a big West Wing fan, and that's like the fucking, rally call of West Wing. What's next? And we have to be ready for what's next, and we've got to be ready to fight for what's next. And 2 years, eye on the prize. It is midterms matter even more than the presidential election does. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. We love you, and our space will always remain a safe space for everyone that is there. And we'll do everything we can to protect that.
Yes. And I will say that if you are not currently in the Facebook group, or if you are and you plan on inviting people in the future, you should let them know there are rules to the group and you're going to have to agree to them before we admit anybody now. A lot of times we get a batch of people. It's like 4 things, but primarily it's be kind and courteous. And that's, I want you to agree so that when I ban you, if you don't, I don't feel bad or like you didn't know.
Right. It's on paper. We know. We can point to the company rule that was violated.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Facebook, somebody did mention, I know a lot of people are leaving Twitter. I'm personally on Threads. I know some of our community are over on Blue Sky.
Right.
Wherever you feel safe, you want to find us, find these like-minded folks, and enjoy your time, even while we focus on doing the work that we need to do to make our country and our world a better place for everybody.
Absolutely.
Why does all of this matter, by the way, if you're conservative or this election didn't, or you're like, who cares? Like, what are these people talking about? All of the works that we talk about center and are from the heart of marginalized people, in particular, most of them LGBTQ community. Honestly, all of Anne's vampires are gay as the day is long, my friend. Some of them are bisexual, some of them are pan, but none of them are straight.
No. And nobody's straight in this world. And I love it. I think everybody's a little gay, but that's just me.
Listen, I think even more today than last week, this community is important, and I'm so thankful for all of you, and stick with us. We're going to keep doing this thing. As I said on TikTok, we're going to keep talking about these gay-ass vampires.
We are.
Sure.
Yeah, as long as you'll listen, we're going to talk about these gay-ass vampires. I'm also really excited because I've been reading a lot of Poe, and I love Poe, but Poe can just be a little schloggy at times, and to just hop into this book, which is right off the bat, such a great read, and I'm interested in it immediately, and I'm like excited. I'm getting all this really great language that makes my heart happy.
To wrap up my it metaphor, Ashley, I just passed. There's a great scene, I don't know, more than halfway through the book. It's a long part called the Apocalyptic Rock War or something like that.
Oh, God, I love that.
It's great. They go to the gravel pit, and it's our heroes, the Losers Club, all on one side, and Mike, the new kid that's about to join the Losers Club, we just don't know it yet. He comes running up to the gravel pit as he's being chased by all the bullies. There's like 5 bullies behind him. Henry Bowers, the worst one. And before this happens, Bill senses that something is about to happen. They were going there to blow fireworks off. And Bill turns to the group and says, "Put them away." And they're like, "What you talking about, Bill?" "Put them away. Rocks, ammo." And he starts filling his pockets with rocks. And so they're all ready when Mike comes up, and Mike goes, "Help, help, the big kids." Yeah, and they begin
those bullies
to whoop these kids' ass.
Those bullies are like monstrous. Stephen King bullies are murderous little shits.
Henry Bowers is also full on insane at that point too. Like his father was, and he's been driven insane. But it's this crazy moment right before the shit hits the fan. One of the boys turns to Bev, the only girl in the losers group, and says, "Bev, maybe you want to get out of here." And Bev gives him this look, and she says, "Shit on that.
Yeah, I love
shit
that.
all over that." That's what I'm telling you. To anybody who says, "Oh, just take it," or "Why I'm going to stop worrying about politics," or "See, my vote doesn't matter," or "This country will never change," or any of that defeatist, shit on that. Shit all over that. Pick up your pebbles. Get in the game.
Hell yes.
Okay. Betty Randall, by the way, here's along that same note, says, "Thanks for the encouraging message. It's always nice to know others understand the distress many of us are feeling today. We made it through once, and I'm sure we'll make it through this time too." Again, not all of us made it through, but yes, the country will make it through, and we as a community will, if we hang together.
We have less rights than we did in 2016.
Y'all.
That's real troubling to me, but we're Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Okay. On a much lighter note, but no less serious to me personally, Matt Abey on YouTube commented on the last episode. Says, "I love your podcast. I've been listening for a few months now. Love you guys. But I've got to say something. Joel, you have a bad habit of talking over Ashley."
No, I'm the interrupter.
No. this last episode, and he says this episode is particularly bad, and he's right. I heard it. No, I heard it in the edit. I was like, why was it? Now, we're going to go on and do the message. The short answer is this. Naturally, I'm bossy and I'm very talkative. I got a lot to say. I had a lot to say about Salem's Lot in particular because I had a tremendous amount of Salem's Lot knowledge dumped into my head over the last month. But we had some connection issues last week too. My internet was not great, and there were several moments, Ashley, where I thought I was like, okay, I'll leave it for Ashley for a second, and I didn't hear you, so I just go on and make the next point. I'm like a radio guy, so I'm like, fill the dead air.
Right, fill the air. Yeah.
I don't have to be that way though. And I should give you more space, and I will give you more space.
No, I feel like I'm the interrupter. I feel like that all the time. I actually felt that way about that last episode. I was like, oh man, I was really like, wait, let me, blah.
But you were fighting for space. Honestly, Ashley, I was choking you out.
That's so
Matt says, there's so many times you've talked about a detail or a character, and Ashley starts to give her opinion, and you will literally start talking in the middle of her sentence, drown her out, and then just go into another monologue. I don't think you mean to do this, but it's getting worse.
No.
Please try to be conscientious.
Stuff.
Please try to be conscientious about letting Ashley speak. And Ashley, please keep talking. You make excellent points, often the better points.
Oh, shit.
And we want to hear you. Again, I don't think this is intentional. Love to you both. And yes, Matt, listen, first of all, you did it. You gave us the shit sandwich, or you gave me the shit sandwich so perfectly. You were like, I've been listening for several months. Love you guys very much. Excellent show. Big fan. Hey, Joel, what the fuck, man? Who's a professional broadcaster here? I thought, what?
Oh shit. No, that is hilarious because I was like, man, I was really like blah blah that episode.
Oh man,
that is so funny. But yeah, so sometimes when we have connectivity issues, we won't hear each other, but we'll both still keep going because we both have that instinct to fill it. Like, and if you ever see me staring into the camera really awkwardly and just kind of like blankly nodding, it's because I'm sure Joel is still talking and I just can't hear him.
Well, and especially like when we get broken up like that, it's like you'll hear like every fourth or fifth word or like, and I love when Mike does, and then it'll be quiet, and it was it, and so you're sitting there like, okay, and I have a thought in a minute, yeah. Anyway,
and when I'm doing this, that's happening.
Matt, I'm so glad you blew up my spot though. Like genuinely, I heard it
Matt,
in the edit when I was working on it last week. I was like, God, I talked a lot in this episode. But thank you. It's done. You don't have to tell me twice, I promise. I will work harder on that.
That's hilarious. Especially considering how I felt about recording that episode.
Yeah. Okay, well, you know what? Let's talk about it first before we get into the episode proper, because maybe you jump off at the end, and I want you to hear this. Ashley and Brett, her lovely husband, have started recording for Fall of the House of Usher for our spinoff Flan Again. If you are only an Articulate Coven subscriber, because you were getting the Midnight Mass episodes when we did that here, please go and subscribe. If you're a listener primarily, go and subscribe to or go follow the podcast Flan Again in all your favorite podcast apps. If you're a YouTube viewer or if you mostly take things in on Patreon, you're all set. They'll go out there in the regular feed, so you'll see them. They have its own playlist for Flan Again. We've got a playlist for Articulate Coven. But I have seen, and I've fully edited the first episode. I've not fully edited the second episode, but I've mostly seen it too. Let me tell you something. You guys are going to love Brett so much, I might not get to do a Flan Again show again.
That's
like,
so
seriously.
Silly.
No, Ashley.
He's wonderful.
First of all, you two in the room is really cute. Like, you get every now and again, you'll get a response from each other that is fantastic. Kelly and I got some of that when we did our reactions to Wolf Like Me. But also, Brett's just, I forget because I don't talk to Brett all the time, and he's not very active on Facebook. Brett is brilliant. Brett is so well-spoken and informed and has a lot of ideas about pop culture and a lot of things to bring to that show. So I'm super excited. Matt, you wanted to hear more from Ashley, she leads the show. She gets to do the intro and everything.
It was so scary. Like we were sitting here getting ready to start, and I was like, "Oh fuck, I've got to go listen to how Joel starts these episodes. I don't even know what I'm doing." Like, yeah. So I was very nervous to be leading the convo, but I think we did okay. We got more comfortable as we went along. But yeah, it's very fun. We like each other a lot, which Joel and Kelly obviously like each other a lot too.
Yeah.
We are not married people who like think it's cute to shit on being married and shit on your spouse. That's not a cute joke to us. We genuinely love our partners so much, and to get to do this with them is really fun. So thank you guys for indulging that too, because it is very fun for us.
And again, that's a big thank you to the patrons. Everybody who's subscribed to our articulatecoven.com/join. You can join there to join the Coven and help us do more of this stuff. But yeah, none of this would have happened. We wouldn't have done the Wolf Like Me reactions that are going up on YouTube. We wouldn't have done the Flanagan show. So thank you for making all that possible. And I'm telling you, if you like Mike Flanagan or you like Edgar Allan Poe, you are going to love this shit. That first episode was so fun, Ashley, like genuinely.
I'm so glad. Yay.
Super proud of it. Yeah. So, okay. Patrons will get that on Friday the 15th. Right after you're listening to this, basically. And then everybody in the YouTube feed will start getting those on Friday the 22nd. And from now on, Flanagan episodes, when they drop, they'll come out on Fridays everywhere. So, all right, there you go.
Same thing. You know, please hit us with your feedback. Hit us with your thoughts, especially if you're a big Poe geek like we are. We want to know like everything you think about it, and I'll be sure to be lurking in those comments so that we can hit up things that you have to say, and we can get
and I'll try to send you some of those too if I see them. Think you might have missed them, Ashley. That'll be a good point. I'll keep you in on that. And by the way, even if you're not a huge Mike Flanagan fan, watch for, because this will also mean we'll get some shorts now from on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, etc., from Brett and Ashley. So I'm excited about that.
And those could be hilarious. You get this one. Joel did one of the story of me failing to scatter my father's ashes. That is one of the best, my favorite things to watch. And I really, truly need to send it to everyone I know.
It's so good. That's such a good story. Okay, Ashley, let's get into this. Blood and Gold.
Yes.
His name was Thorn. Okay, you have not read the Prince Lestat trilogy, right? You still haven't read any of them?
No.
Okay. We're going to have to get into at least that first Prince Lestat book after next season, I think, because things are going to start coming up in the show, is my guess. But Thorn is a character that plays a pretty prominent role in that trilogy, the Prince Lestat trilogy, the last 3 books that Anne wrote before she passed. Thorn comes up a lot. I'm not going to spoil about where, but honestly, I had forgotten he was introduced here. I only remembered him from those. So when we open with Thorn, I go, oh wait, Thorn's my boy. I love Thorn.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because if I reread this book, I think this like spring, whenever we read Pandora, I reread this at the same time. Like I finished Pandora and I was like, oh, what does that asshole Marius have to say about this shit? And so
not much, honestly.
No, not a lot.
They don't cross over the stories. It's like it's like they talk to each other and they're like, you tell that part and I'll tell this part.
Yeah. So when I picked it back up and started this read, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, and then I was like, immediately I was like, I remember now how this story starts and but it's kind of just like a brand new person out of nowhere we're meeting here. And I kind of love that. A great way to introduce a new character, especially one that I didn't realize becomes very important later on. Very well done, Anne. Very well done.
Well, okay. And she does a great job of making us like Thorn before we know anything about him, really.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, he's a simple man. He comes from a simple time in history where war was the song of the gods, and he played the song pretty fucking well, right? And that was what he was. But in one of the first lines in the whole fucking book, he's talking about how he had slept for centuries and he didn't know how long, but every now and again, the thirst would make him rise, and he would go and he would feed off of the snow hunters that were near him. And he describes these people very clearly. He's talking about the Inuit. But here's the line. He fed off them, careful to never take too much from any one, so that none died on account of him. Ashley, we're like 7 fucking books into this series at this point. This is the first vampire who lives off of the little drink.
My God.
They all can do it.
We could all be doing that all the time, guys. For those of you that feel so bad, Louis, about killing people, you could just be having a little sippity sip if you could control yourself.
And I mean, okay, so there's an argument later when we get more of Thorne's story. It's possible that this little drink lifestyle is something he came to, sort of as an elder statesman,
Right.
after a few centuries in vampirism. But like Louis' best buddies are all the oldest and powerfulest in the universe. You again feed up. And then just not kill them when you feed off them. And I mean, immediately I'm like, God, this dude's so much better than the dudes we've been hanging out with.
Right. He does. He seems to have like more moral fortitude than our other vampires, for sure.
So he's laying in this, icy grave, tomb for centuries. And he rises from occasionally to go and eat. And he's just slowly growing in power and listening to the world advance. And I love, he's like, oh yeah, I understood television. Oh yeah, I understood computers. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, oh yeah, I understood whatever. And again, seems so much more on the ball than most of our, mopey numbskulls that we've spent beforehand.
Right.
I'm like, what? Anne, you fell in love with a Viking somewhere? Who is this guy based on?
Yeah, because he's very determined and kind of steadfast and not flighty. And yeah, this is he's got that real man's man quality to him,
Well, okay. Do you remember in the 80s, in the 70s and the 80s, there was the Incredible Hulk TV series, but then after that, NBC made a bunch of TV movies. Do you remember that? They'd bring back Bill Bixby and they would then try to spin off. They did a Daredevil one. They did a Thor one. They did somebody else. Anyway, the Thor one is the one that this guy reminds me of because their Thor is just like this big blonde haired guy. And he's like, oh, this meat is wonderful. Yes. And he'd, immediately throw the cup down and then give you a big hug. Right. Can we arm wrestle?
I've always thought of Thor as the worst of the superheroes until the Marvel Renaissance. I was just like, he's just a god. That's not even that. She's just he's a god. You're not you're just a god. And I think Adventures in Babysitting kind of gave me a bad taste in my mouth about Thor just being a stupid little kid's thing. Oh, Lord.
I don't know, man. I the best versions of Thor are basically like a giant German shepherd, right? It's capable of being very damaging if you're a villain, but he's just big and lovable.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth really nails it. I think that I very much enjoy Hemsworth's Thor, and not just because of the look of Hemsworth's Thor.
And of course, Thor is Thorn's god. That's who he was named for. His original name is Thornevald, but it had been shortened to Thorn when he was made. And who was he made by? Maharet. Or Maharet? How do we you say it first.
I don't know that we're universally agreed upon what it is. Maharet?
So how did you pronounce it when you read it as a kid? Maharet?
Maharet.
Okay.
Yeah, Maharet.
I said,
definitely.
I assumed that they rhymed. I thought it was Mahare and Makare. That's how I said it in my head when I was a kid.
Like Macarena.
I know. I don't believe it is Makare for sure. And I don't think it's Mahare either. I think it's Maharet. But anyway.
I want it to be though now. Can we retcon that?
Yeah, right. Thorn is the child, in the blood anyway, of Maharet, one of the red-haired twins, that eventually rises up in Queen of the Damned. So this is so interesting to me that he was connected to this world and he's hundreds and hundreds of years old. Well, he's got to be over 1,000 years old, right? He's not as old as Marius, but very, very old. And yet had no clue about the origin of the species. So he learns it through the music videos that he's hearing and seeing in people's minds from Lestat and Queen of the Damned. He's like, is this real? And then Akasha rises and he goes, oh, it is real.
What the fuck? Yeah. He a little clueless there about his own origins, bless his heart. But I love that he was like, because he's just been hanging out and listening. And so he just picked up on everything, and he was like, yeah, that lady, she was right near me killing people, and she just went right by me. I guess I was quiet enough she didn't hear me.
But we get a lot of perspectives in Queen of the Damned, but primarily it's the unconnected, where we just get to see destruction through their eyes, like the baby Jinx, for instance. And then we get the beloved of Lestat, like Armand and Louis and Gabrielle and people like that. And then we get the ancients, the ones that are capable of having some sort of play in the actual thing that's happening among vampires.
Right.
Thorn would be in that latter category, but just wasn't around for it. It's anyway, I find that a fascinating perspective.
She didn't introduce him to any of her friends. That's what happened. She was like,
exactly.
I don't really want to show you off. People will wonder. Yeah.
So there's a cool moment. Thorn sees the moment when Akasha is attacked in Queen of the Damned, and when Makare becomes the new Queen of the Damned, and he describes the web of connected vampires through the blood. Really, really cool. He says the tale of the sacred core was true. This is one of those moments, I think. So, like, the people as old as, or the vampires as old as Marius, or around his age, remembered the Great Burning when the mother and father were put into the sun, and so they understood that all vampires were connected. But basically, for anybody like Armand's age or younger, that was ancient history, and all we got to go on is like 4 people that might know and that say the same thing. But like whatever.
And Marius wasn't telling Armand any of that.
Yeah, Armand didn't even know it.
But Armand didn't even, like, that's the thing, is Marius just sits on this information. There's a lot to unpack with Marius. God bless. I'm really, really excited to have, 400 pages with this asshole to really, really kick him around a little bit. I do love him. I can't help it. I love him, but he's such an idiot.
So I do love, though, that this book is all about him, and we go like 40 pages deep before he ever really even comes into it almost.
Right. But then immediately he is like, woe is me. Woe is me. I'm so lonely. Like, we talk about, we fucking give Louis a hard time, but this is some real Eeyore shit here. This is some real, I'm so lonely.
Okay.
Push everyone away.
When I reread the audiobook the first time, I don't know, 2 months ago now, I was like halfway through it, and I turned to Kelly one day and I'm like, what was that last Taylor Swift album called? She's like, The Tortured Poet Society? And I go, yeah. This book about Marius is just The Tortured Vampire Society. That's what this book ought to be called.
Let me unpack the ways that I have loved and lost.
He's like, let me list all the people who have left me behind.
We'll set you up to do it too.
Right? Okay. So, but before we get there, though, we get this like, I love, and Anne does a good job of this, I feel like, by the way. Lots of people in the group have said, hey, I've started, like, Queen of the Damned is the one that a lot of people have seen hung up on lately. I started Queen of the Damned, and it's, like, so much, and none of these vampires do I know. Can I skip it? I always say no, just because the central plot is so important. But genuinely, if it's too hard for you and you want to try some of these others, every single one of them does a previously on.
Yeah.
They all do. Well, as you know, all the vampires live together in Miami now because the queen was killed by Maharet and Makare. Which,
and now we party here.
Ancient grudge, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they do the Shakespeare setting the stage, and now we tell a story. So, like, genuinely, you could hop on at any point, I think, if you want to be that way.
And here's the other thing. Like, Wikipedia never hurt anybody. If you just want to hit Wikipedia and get a rundown of what happened in a book that you're struggling with, God, just fucking, we're grown-ups. Do what you want. You don't have to read anything in order. You could be rebellious. But a lot of shit does happen in Queen of the Damned. That's kind of a tricky one to skip.
Thorn says about Lestat, there would never be any peace for this one called Lestat, which is like,
he was like,
again,
one of Thorn's people, like one of the warriors of Thorn's time. I totally have that highlighted too. Yeah. He gets it. He gets it.
Yeah. And honestly, like you and I, especially pre-TV show, we spoke so much about Lestat as the wolf killer.
Right.
And that is, Lestat's entire life is just like he's looking for a new wolf to kill. That's all it is. It's like, where's the next adventure? What are we gonna do now?
Yeah, who's the next person I can fall in love with and ruin their life? Yeah, I mean that's like he is driven by what's next himself. Like it's always pursuit of the next beautiful creature or the next cool philosophical thing he hadn't thought of, or the next mystery that comes up the street that might want to swap bodies with him. Whatever. He's up for whatever. He's a real YOLO kind of guy.
It's like every now and again he emails, his favorite vampires and goes, "What would be the most terrible things that I could do? What do you think? Could you list them for me, 4 or 5 things?"
Maybe something that might really annoy you.
Okay. Thorn, again, so much more brilliant than our normal vampires, it feels like. He's doing his previously on still, and he's catching us up on the events of Memnoch the Devil, where Lestat literally goes and meets angels and demons, and then comes back to Earth raving with a religious symbol. He brings back Veronica's veil, and a bunch of vampires freak out about it. Some of them try to burn themselves in the sun. There is literally a world, right? There's a worldwide revival that takes place because of this. It's a whole thing. And Thorn goes, how did they chain him down at the end of that thing? Because, Ashley, I read that book. That was the first book that I waited in line for, like the day that it came out in the Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles. That was the first one that I was there for when it dropped. I loved Memnoch the Devil. It was very important to me as a young fundamental child. I was trying to figure out, religion and philosophy and where my place in the world. I'd never fucking thought about why she was able to chain Lestat up before. It never occurred to me to think, what sort of chains does she have that would hold Lestat after he drank from Jesus as well as Akasha?
That's crazy. Well, and it's something I had forgotten about too. Like, and a detail I love that it's like from her hair. She's woven chains from her hair. Okay.
The last when I read this as an audiobook, I had that thought. I was like, wow, Thorn, I've never fucking thought about it before, honestly. What were those chains made of? Ashley, I was surprised when we get to the end and discover it's her hair. Marius says it in the first 30 pages. He's like, probably her hair with some gold and blood, maybe. That'd probably do it. And I'm like, well, of course it would. Also, Thorn's first time that he meets Maharet, what's she doing? She's spinning her hair into thread. Like, asshole, how dense do you have to be to miss these? Ashley, we're watching Wolf Like Me, Kelly and I together, and 2 or 3 times she's been like, hey, did you see the such and such? And I'm like, what? She's like, there were 4 full moons in that montage sequence when they went from such to such. And I was like, really? There were full moons? She was like, there were 4 of them. You missed all of them? I'm like, I didn't see it.
I didn't catch that. I probably looked at my phone for a second. Is what I did.
Honestly, I'm probably like, how long's the recording running? Is the camera in the right place? Does everything look like it's on? How's the upload going? I don't know. I'm giving myself excuses. But I didn't even think about this. Way,
and it is generally because my ADHD has been like, time to think about something else for a minute.
But the idea that you could do so again, and we get specifics later. But she spins her hair into thread, the thread into chains, and then, into links, and then you can make a chain out of that. Yep. And then, yes, because it is made of her own vampirically powered body, you can't break through it. Hell, man, that is fascinating. That's awesome.
And I don't even second guess that as science. I'm like, bet.
No, I'm like, absolutely. That makes sense.
Yep.
Maharet's hair, like my hair wouldn't do that.
No,
but I'm like,
no, it is real, but it would not.
Although it does make me think probably Lestat's hair would do this for a mortal, right? Like it wouldn't, you could chain up a mortal with not human hair, but like pretty strong vampire hair. Yeah. Anyway,
I would think
fascinating idea.
Moderately powerful vampire hair could probably keep a person in check.
The super readers who are constantly recycling this series for themselves can correct me. I don't remember from my read of the Prince Lestat trilogy whether this specific thing comes up again or not. I don't know.
If it does, remind us.
Yeah, I know, right?
Tell me for the very first time.
Very cool idea. All right, so this sort of goes to something that we've talked about some in our TV show discussions. Let's discuss older vampires, especially more powerful vampires, and they're sleeping for hundreds of years, like what Thorn is doing here. Now, Thorn specifically, unlike most of them, talks about he's rising on occasion, at least every few years or something.
Like he's keeping an ear out. He's kind of like, he's still conscious and aware of what's going on around him.
So in the show, specifically in the theater, there are vampires that are locked up in the basement in coffins and, buried alive, one would assume. And the idea is, the way that it's played, is those vampires are dead now. We see, Louise sees early in season 2, of coffin with a vampire body in it, but it's like literally decayed to dust. So like, what is the defining line? In the novels, there are also vampires who are starved to death in tombs. The Coven does that before they become the theater. I think it comes down to this. Only a very powerful vampire could even do it to begin with. And if you are powerful enough to do it, you might need help when you rise. If you don't do what Thorn does and every so often come back up, get a snack, and then go back down.
Because Lestat needs help. He needs, like, Marius. Doesn't Marius help him out when he...
Yes.
Yeah.
The first time he goes down, if Marius did not come to save him, it's pretty clear in the novel that he wouldn't have had the power to rise.
Yeah.
And now, that's before he gets a supercharge from Akasha et al. But, now... in later decades, I think absolutely once he goes to Louisiana, for instance, he does go back to ground then and rises on his own. Right before he rises in the Vampire Lestat novel in the 80s, he's been in the ground for years, if not decades at that point, and it's fine when he rises. He can do it on his own. He slowly gets a little animal here, a little creature there, whatever, and then he can, recover when he finally eats a human. But the point is, the young or the not incredibly powerful don't really have that option at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too, like, a lot of it has to do with like choice, and like if you're choosing to, like, I'm just gonna take a little break, I need some quiet time. I need to dissociate a little bit. Like, I'm just gonna go over here and dissociate for a few years, as opposed to, I'm gonna put you in this coffin and put you under this theater. You're in this box now. Good luck. Like, I don't think that like, you probably are gonna get way hungrier if you didn't choose to not eat.
Yeah, it's almost like like the will is involved in it. I think you're right. I think you're right. Okay. When Thorn finally gets there to see Marius, and I love the idea, by the way, that they're just like long distance lonely calling. Effectively, it's like they're putting their video up on the video dating line, like, I'm a blonde vampire from the Roman Empire who's looking for a pen pal.
There really should be an app for these vampires so they could find better partners for themselves.
Ooh, what would Grindr be for vampires? He looked most handsome to Thorn, and well-mannered, and rather like a creature of books than a man of the sword. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't know who they're going to cast to play Marius in season 3, but I want them to think about this description. Most handsome, well-mannered, and rather like a creature of books than a man of the sword. Marius is a strong physical figure. He's tall, he's powerfully built.
And attractive. He should be attractive.
He got soft hands, though. Marius does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Pretty fingers. Pretty fingers. His fingers were fine.
And I know it's mostly just because they live in a time different than our own, but I do love the fact that Thorn doesn't know this dude, and he immediately gives him a blood kiss. And he's like, now we can't quarrel over any small thing.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be interesting if that were the solution to all of our problems in the world? We can't quarrel over small things. Psst, here, I'm going to spit some blood in your mouth.
Just got to bite your tongue and stick it down somebody's throat. It totally works. I mean, I will say it will pause them from their antagonizing you, is my guess.
Yeah, I would imagine that would put a quick end to things for a moment. Pause.
Okay. So we go back to Marius's house after they have a little drinky poo at the bar, which I love, the little do-si-do Thorne does actually kill somebody in the bar, and then they get outside, and Marius is like, "You can't kill anybody now."
And kill anybody here, and he's like, "Well, what if I already did?"
Well, now that you said it, I won't anymore.
I left him in the back. I cleaned up my mess, but there's a husk of a person back there. He wasn't a good guy.
I didn't make this note, but there's another, I don't think it's this moment. I think it's after they have their bath scene, but they go to a bar, and Thorne in particular picks 3 women that are together, like alone, not dancing. But he takes the oldest one first, because he's like, I know no one else will, like, it'll make her feel good for me to choose her, and I'll never do her any harm. And I'm like, Thorne is my boy. I love him so fucking much.
You could pick him instead of the bear ladies, I think.
That's what I'm saying. Absolutely, you can pick Thorne.
Yeah.
The dude that he killed was a dude, by the way. That's all I'm going to say. He did not kill the women.
No, he did not kill the women. Just little drinks.
So we finally go back to Marius's house, though, and Marius has a house guest. He says, let me introduce you to the one who's already here. And I think I remembered at this point in the novels where this person was, but I wasn't expecting it to be him. I was thinking, well, wait, Pandora's not with Marius at this point, is she? And, Lestat's definitely not here. Who is? I was not expecting Daniel.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to match this Daniel to our Daniel.
Yeah.
This is going to be a real challenge. I think to get our current Daniel to this Daniel, I don't know. I don't know if we can even do it.
Okay, I think this is one of the reasons why lots of people, myself included, have been worried that the show is not ever going to give us David Talbot, because we have Daniel Malloy 40 years on, right? Daniel Malloy in the novels is a boy. He is the boy in Interview with the Vampire, driven mad by this knowledge that he gets from Louis and then from Lestat, and he goes to try to find
Armand
Lestat.
Actually, just fucking with him.
I said, so that's the worst thing, right? Is he's already a junkie, and he's also knows that vampires are real, and he's going crazy, and then Armand gets him and fucks with him for like, it's not a decade, but it's a while.
It's
right?
a hot
they're
minute,
together,
y'all.
Yeah, a good while.
Years.
And toys him, strings him along with the blood, and like makes him a junkie for vampire blood, makes him fuck everybody so that Armand can watch, and all sorts of variations. Like, it's very
all
unhealthy.
sorts of fucking Armand things that he does.
Yeah. And then finally, when it's danger, when Daniel is going to die, he gets turned. But like, it's like Nikki in the books. It's like some people are not meant for it, or it's not a good time, or whatever. Daniel was not ready for the blood, and it did not help things eventually.
No.
Like, Daniel needs help. And so Marius is his fucking caretaker now.
Yeah, he's like he's got his power of attorney.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what it sounds like. He's like, Daniel, do you need takeout?
To be Do we need to
Daniel?
DoorDash something for you, Daniel?
Yes, Daniel, I'll order you some more trains. Don't even worry about it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You could do worse than having Marius as a caretaker. I mean,
that's true.
He is, it's like if you are a caretaker of a parent or someone and they pass, you're like, I don't know what to do with myself. And I think that Marius feels that about Akasha and Inkle. He's like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? Like, what's my purpose? What's my thing? And then he's like, okay, Daniel, you're a mess. Come with me. We'll live in a beautiful home. Because Marius will always have a fucking nice house to live in.
Yeah, okay. I do like him describing it to Thorne, too. It's so clear that he's proud of himself.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I have many homes, and I've lived in many different ways. This is just one of them. I had a modern marvel build this. Don't you love it? Isn't it very nice?
Quite fancy. Come get this giant bathtub with me.
Okay, and that's where I want to go. I'm just like a little welcome bath time. I will say this scene in particular reminds me of one way that the TV series absolutely has improved these books. This is a sexy bath time, and yet neither one of them, it's all fucking subtext, right? It's all like, I love your body and I like to be near it and I want to touch it.
It's nice to look at.
But she's established that we don't use our penises.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, no, y'all just scrub and fuck, right? Just give us a scrub and fuck. That's what we want.
Scrub and fuck. That's what the kids are looking for. Just a good, gentle rinse and rub.
I'm just saying, y'all are gonna love this scene when we get to it in season 7.
It's gonna be
be awesome.
It's gonna be hot.
Marius is gonna be a zaddy. I just know it.
Look, listen, if they fuck up that casting, I'm gonna be and I trust them, but he has to be hot, because otherwise, how could all of these people deal with him?
Yes, otherwise they would fucking crush. They would leave him in the ice when he gets in trouble in Queen of the Damned. Fuck Marius. That would be the word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still, everybody wants him at least a little bit. Even Armand.
So Marius finally starts to talk to Thorn in earnest now, and they're sharing a little bit back and forth. And Thorn asks him about his gods. Who were your gods?
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I don't mean, who did you worship? I mean, what did you lose? As we've both lost so much. What he means is, what time do you come from? Like, where are you, in this human history that we're sort of outside of now? Marius's line is good. He said, I was too cold of temperament to have gods, and not having had any true gods of my own, I speak of all gods as if they were poetry. This, I think, honestly, is Anne's thesis. I know that Anne came in and out of the Catholic Church.
Right.
I think Anne was much like me. She was a big Jesus devotee, sort of less so on Yahweh Jehovah. Like the idea of any big G God is hard to wrap your mind around, right? Like Jesus can be all sorts of things and still not give us a big G God. And the big G God, and I think this is what Marius is speaking to, and I think this was part of Anne's problem. When you have a big G God, it is so hard to figure out the problem of pain.
Right.
You and I were talking before we started the show about our topic as we started the show, this election result. If it had gone the other way, it's not half the country. It's about 22% of people that voted for him. It's about 22% of Americans. It's 22% of Americans that voted for him. It's 20.5% that voted for Harris. But either way, that's not nearly half the country. But if you'd had either result, 20% of Americans would have woken up and went, God, what have you done to us? Well, God didn't do this to us. Like, even if you have a big G God, I do understand there's like free will and the idea that he sets the universe in motion, etc. But I'm saying, when you wrap it in this, having no gods of my own, having no true gods of my own, I speak of all gods as if they were poetry. And the poetry of it can make sense. This is a metaphor. This is a simile. This is a little story. This is a parable. Whatever.
That's literally like how we look at Greek and Roman gods. Like we look at those as like myths, mythology, things like that. Those are just really great stories. Really, really interesting stories that people use to explain the unexplainable. That is religion in a nutshell to me. Is religion exists to help us explain the things and wrap our heads around the things that we can't explain yet. We don't understand. And that includes things like hope and faith and wanting something, wanting comfort. I think that's a huge part of religion for a lot of people, is finding that comfort in it. Like when you're having like, oh, things are bad, but you know what? Everything happens for a reason. God only gives you what you can handle, blah, da, 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 da. Like there's so much shit and all of that is what it's just wishes. It's little stories we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better or to have more confidence in a situation. 100%. So I totally get that concept, like, and as someone who is very much without religion, I very look on everything like that. It's just, it's what you need to comfort you, what you need to feel like there's something more than you out in the world. I feel that way all the time. I don't need a deity to explain those things. I feel the energy of the people around me, and I feel the goodness in the world and the badness in the world and the sadness in the world. So, but I do think that that's a really beautiful, poetic way to explain atheism too,
So I need you from now on, when someone asks what church you go to, you need to say, I am too cold of temperament to have gods. I have no true gods of my own.
I'm too cold of temperament to have gods. That's going to be, I'm going to get a t-shirt to wear that for Thanksgiving.
I have no true gods of my own.
Yeah. On the back.
What's the quote from Conan the Barbarian? If you don't help me now, Crom, to hell with you. Whatever. Yeah.
God, I love Arnie.
Okay, this is such a great line from Thorn. Marius needed to speak in a long flow of words as much as Thorn needed to hear words. Marius and Thorn had come upon each other in the proper moment.
Yes. Well, yeah, because he's like, I mean, that's a great setup for this story too. It
really is.
Marius do love to talk and tell his business to people, especially if he thinks you're a pretty thing. And Thor's been, under ice for a hot minute, so he's got some listening time to do, and wants to know what the fuck happened. Like, I want to get at the details on all the shit that went down that I've been hearing through the ice.
So once Akasha was dead, part of Marius had to be fucking ecstatic, because he finally was like, every motherfucker I meet from now on, I can tell my whole story. That shit's gonna be bomb. Shit's gonna be so good.
People never believe what I've been doing. Oh, bless.
Okay, so I love we get this whole book ahead of us where Marius is telling his story, but right here before he starts the story, they off screen effectively tell us the parts of his story from the Vampire Lestat, right? He sort of like cliff notes it in the book.
Right.
It's very cute. I'm like, again, it's Anne going, you've heard this part already.
Here's a recap. Quick recap.
If this was a comic book, it would have a little bubble and it would say, see chapter 342, an issue, whatever.
Here's your footnote. Go back and read.
Right. But the primary thing we need to take away from that recap of Marius's chapters from the Vampire Lestat is that he hates the fuck out of Mael. Hates the fuck out of Mael.
Yeah, we got a real beef with that asshole. And I respect that, frankly. Mael's a dick.
Yeah, I do too. Well, okay. And I had forgotten that they have so many interactions throughout history. I knew I knew their origin was together, obviously, and I know they meet together again because Mael's part of Maharat's party in The Queen of the Damned. But in between there, I'd forgotten all the stuff that happened in Europe, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is great!"
Yeah, because it is like, and this story, Marius' story is great. I mean, this is a really great fucking book, and there's a lot of adventure to it and a lot of peril, and it's a really great fun read. The audiobook's fantastic. Roger Rees does it. It's just a really, really good time. And I'm, but yeah, it is. It's like setting up centuries and centuries of fucking hating this asshole. I love it. Everyone should have an arch nemesis. Makes things more interesting.
The other thing that we learn here from those Marius chapters from the Vampire Lestat, as he's recapping for Thorn, he admits really that he sent Lestat away at least as much because he was jealous that the queen had drunk from Lestat, as that he was scared.
He didn't get the back and forth.
She never drank from me. She never drank from Pandora. She never drank from other people that we'll talk about later in this novel. But she drank from Lestat, and it was too much. He was like, you know what? You need to go. Actually, you need to go and not be here.
Go on.
I will see you later.
You've become Mom's favorite. You gotta go.
Yeah, it is interesting to me though. It's like, I don't know. It's like, every now and again you'll get your grandfather alone at a dinner or something, and he'll talk about, boy, I really hate that I did XYZ in 1947, and he's never even admitted to himself. Yeah, this is one of those moments where Marius is like, yeah, I threw Lestat out because I was jealous as a motherfucker. Actually, it's a shame.
Actually, now that I reflect upon my previous actions, I might be a bit of a dick.
I like to, every now and again he's like, I don't know if you know this, but Lestat dresses like me. He's very fond of me.
I find it really annoying that he chooses to wear the same shade of red I do. You love it.
He absolutely does love it. All right, so the way that I want to break this book down And I feel like, honestly, it made a lot of sense because of the way that this first part ran. I think it makes sense to break it down into relationships.
Yeah.
This book is really about a series of primary relationships for Marius. And in particular here, we get this little relationship with Thorn that begins to build. And I think it shows, not so much because they don't get to know each other so passionately and intimately, and they don't have like a long history together in either direction of this book, but this is a moment where Marius is very vulnerable and needs someone. Thorn needs someone too to get back into the world, right? Like he's off on this mission for vengeance. He wants to hurt Maharet. He knows he can't kill her. He probably knows he can't really hurt her, but he's determined to. And honestly, his injury is so slight. It's that she fell in love with somebody else and got more interested in somebody else and moved on. And it's like, we're fucking timeless, bud.
Yeah.
See me in a couple of centuries.
Yeah. Calm down. Yeah. You should talk to some of these clowns that have been fucking the same people off and on for hundreds of thousands of years, sir.
I'm just like, talk to Lestat about Louis and Armand. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. You don't need to be this angsty. I mean, you can be this angsty, but go be angsty over here with him. You guys can talk about it and fuck about it, and it'll be much more fun.
I mean, and that's basically what Marius tells him too. He's like, hey, I do want to talk to you, but like, you're not going to bring that crazy bitch to my house, are you? Like, she'll burn you and me both, and it will not be fun. I'm a calm man these days. She's got the queen with her, dude. Like, let's don't.
I'm here with my buddy who's making little miniature houses. Like, we're pretty chill on a Friday night up in Casa de
Oh, man.
Dominus.
All right. So my next section, what did I have? I've got to pull up my my notes here. So first of all, next week, we are going to do a movie night. So you're going to get to talk about Let the Right One In from 2008. It's a Swedish film, by the way. I think I said Danish the last time.
It's so good.
Up the Patreon. All right, so I'm going to run through our whole calendar here that's coming up just so that we can get all of this lined up and I can tell you what you need to read for our next few book clubs.
And that's for me because I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to read next. Also, I need to know what movie to watch.
So Let the Right One In is the next one. And then after that, where is it? There we go. Okay. All right. We did Blood and Gold Part 1, Marius and Thorn tonight. We're going to do movie night, Let the Right One In on November 17th.
Excellent.
These are all for the public releases, by the way, I think. I think these are public release dates. If not, it's a day later for public release. Blood and Gold Part 2 will be November 24th, and it's going to be Marius and Mael. So we're going to talk a little bit about the origin, and then we're going to talk about that antagonistic relationship that plays out through those first, whatever, like it's like 7 or 8 chapters.
Yeah.
These first 7 or 8 chapters after the story begins, as it's called in Blood and Gold.
A lot to unpack with those two.
And we're going to go from Marius and Mael. The chapter after that will be when he first meets Armand. That's where we're going to go for our next section. So we'll go Marius and Mael, and then Marius and Armand will be coming out on December 8th. And then our final 2 sections, we're going to talk about Marius and Bianca. And then we'll finish the book, the last few chapters, and we're going to focus on Marius and Akasha. I want to talk about this paternalistic and yet caretaker relationship. He is her daughter, her son, but also her lover, but also her caretaker, but also her father, etc. And how even after her demise, I think Akasha is central in defining the character of Marius. So that's where I want to wrap things up.
Absolutely.
All right. So for right now, we're going to read all the way until Armand comes into the novel. When Armand shows up, you can pause, and that'll be our next book club episode. We'll talk about Marius, Mael, and all the stuff that happens with their clan. There's some side characters that are introduced there around Mael and that part of Marius's life, which I think are very interesting characters and don't get a lot of play elsewhere in the novels. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah. This is some good sections coming up.
So Let the Right One In is our next movie. Then we're going to do Underworld. Then we're going to do Voyage of the Demeter and From Dusk Till Dawn back to back. So and let me tell you why we're doing this. We're dividing up the last few book club episodes. And I'll put the whole calendar, by the way, in the show notes this week so you can keep up with it too. But we're dividing up the last couple of book club episodes primarily because Ashley and I can record movie nights easier than we can book club episodes. And this way we can record a couple of movie nights back to back and not be recording Christmas week. That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, we'll have a week off.
But we've got cool stuff coming for you all the way through to January. And then January 5th will be our first episode of Mayfair Witches Season 2 as they're back on AMC. All right. One more reminder to go and subscribe to Flan again. If you're an audio listener and you aren't already following that show somewhere, you're going to start getting the Follow the House of Usher episodes soon, and they are amazing. What else, Ashley? Anything before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Just take care of yourself and rest when you need to, and have heart. Have heart. Everything.
I don't know about y'all, but escaping into a good book is a fantastic way to beat the blues and to refresh and recharge so that you can get back out there and do the work that you need to do.
And on a good day, this time of year is difficult for a lot of people with the holidays and with the time change here in the U.S. Like, really fucks with a lot of people. So just be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, listen to your body, listen to your heart.
Man, Josh Gad posted like a image of his watch and darkness behind it. And he goes, can we just all agree that nothing with 5 in front of it should be this dark?
Oh God. It is, I'm at least grateful that when I get up and go to work in the mornings that there's light. I'm more functional this time of year. I also hate summer and I hate being hot. So like I thrive during this dark time. I'm a weirdo. So we're kind of in my prime days, but I get that not everybody is like me. I'm a fucking like creep that likes the rain and fog.
I don't care for the rain and fog and darkness, but I will just drown it out with Christmas lights, so we're fine.
Yeah.
The next time we record, there will absolutely be a Christmas tree behind me. We've got a big one that goes in our bedroom.
Already at your house, didn't you?
So there's one in our living room now, like the family tree is up, but we've got one that goes in our bedroom every year as well, and it's like a full size.
I love it.
It's like a 6.5 foot.
I've only begun to accept Christmas as something fun again because I worked in retail for entirely too long.
Yeah, that'll do it.
I ran a home section of a store, and we sold Christmas trees and Christmas shit. So I would start dealing with Christmas ornaments in like July, y'all. And the amount of Chinese glitter that I have inhaled in my lungs will never ever be the same.
I saw somebody say the other day, no matter your religious affiliation, we should all be thankful for Halloween. It's the last backstop against the further encroachment of the Christmas season.
Yes, I do love Halloween. It's my favorite. And Thanksgiving, because I love to eat.
I will just say Thanksgiving is a holiday within the Christmas season. So
yes, I agree with that. No, I totally agree with that. Like, you can start your Christmas as early as you want, but please
you can eat turkey tastes better with the Christmas tree up. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Whatever brings you joy in these dark times is what I have to say.
All right, y'all. Until we talk again, go and watch Let the Right One In. Go and read some more of Blood and Gold, and we'll be back soon again to talk about these gay ass vampires.
These gay ass vampires. We love them.
Until then, we have been your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And see, I barely talked over you at all. We are the Articulate Coven.
Took such good turns.
Thanks for listening to The Articulate Coven. If you enjoyed the show, check out our groups on Facebook and Discord. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Or find us at articulatecoven.com and wherever you listen to podcasts.